Hi, I'm Dr. Thomas Armstrong. Welcome to my video series on the adolescent brain. This is part 1, The Passion and Promise of the Teenage Years. This series is based upon my book, The Power of the Adolescent Brain, Strategies for Teaching Middle and High School Students. In this first video, we're going to take a look at adolescence as a stage of life and examine how it has been viewed throughout history. But first, let me give you a very quick summary of what we now know about the adolescent brain. This is your brain. This is your brain on adolescence. Any questions? But seriously, folks, the word adolescence comes from the Latin word adolescere, which means to grow to maturity, which of course is exactly what we want to have happen during the teen years. And just to let you know that our concerns about adolescence aren't new, here's a quote attributed to the Greek philosopher Socrates by his disciple Plato over 2,000 years ago. Our youth now love luxury. They have bad manners, contempt for authority. They show disrespect for their elders and love chatter in place of exercise. They no longer rise when elders enter the room. They contradict their parents, chatter before company, gobble up their food, and tyrannize their teachers. Similarly, Plato's disciple Aristotle had this to say about adolescence. The young are heated by nature as drunken men by wine. And I kind of wonder if Aristotle himself in his teen years was a discipline problem for his teacher Plato. 400 years ago, the English playwright William Shakespeare interjected what might have been his own personal attitudes about adolescence into his play Winter's Tale. He wrote, "I would that there were no age between 16 and 3 and 20, or that youth would sleep out the rest. For there is nothing in the between but getting wenches with child, wronging the ancientry, stealing, fighting. Hark you now, would any but these boiled brains of 19 and 2 and 20 hunt this weather?" For many thousands of years, indigenous cultures around the world have understood what a handful adolescents are, and they've intentionally developed rituals, or what are called rites of passage, that take young teens through what are often quite brutal challenges in order to transition them into the adult world. Here in this historical photo, for example, you see some young Aboriginal men from Australia being initiated by having to lie down under the hot sun for hours, possibly even for days, while stinging insects swarm all over them. You'll see some with white stakes near their heads. These are the ones that didn't make it, who died during the ritual. The good news is that we don't have these brutal rites of passage anymore in post-industrial cultures like ours. Instead, we have vestiges of older rites, like the quinceañera, or celebration of a young girl's 15th birthday in Latin American culture, or the bar mitzvah or bat mitzvah in Jewish culture, or the high school graduation and all-night party in many communities around the United States. The bad news is that because the element of risk-taking is gone from most of these contemporary rites, and risk-taking is a built-in element of the adolescent brain, adolescents try to fill in the gap by creating their own rites, by, for example, going through gang initiations, or by engaging in drug use, binge drinking, or other risky practices. This all comes back to the adolescent brain and how it's wired differently for just these few years between 12 and 20 to prepare it for the future. Our understanding of the adolescent brain has undergone a fundamental shift only in the last few years. As late as the 1990s, it was thought by most scientists that the human brain was pretty much finished developing by the end of childhood. By the age of 10, the brain reaches the size of the adult brain and won't get much bigger after that. But over the past 20 years, neuroscientists have discovered dramatic changes going on inside the adolescent brain, changes that are designed by nature to prepare teenagers for the challenges of adulthood. In the next few videos, we're going to look at some of the major findings and the major changes that came out of this brain research. And we'll look at what they tell us about how we need to educate our teens differently as a result in our middle and high schools. Again, if you're interested in the issues I've raised in this video, you can get my book, The Power of the Adolescent Brain: Strategies for Teaching Middle and High School Students. The easiest way for you to order it is to go to my website. Here's my home page. Look up between the two arrows at the top and you'll see my address, www.institute4learning.com. Once you're on my site, look at the top of the left-hand column and you'll see a blue arrow pointing at the cover of my book, The Power of the Adolescent Brain. Just click on the cover and it will take you to the book's page on Amazon.com, where you can directly order it in either paperback or for your Kindle. Thanks again for watching, and look for my other videos on the adolescent brain, which will be coming up in the days ahead. Thanks again.